There are 33 million small businesses in America right now. By the end of this year, 4 million of them will close. Most of them started at home, most of them had a plan, and most of them never saw it coming. Here's what nobody tells you about starting a business from home. It's not that it's hard, it's that the entire narrative around it has been weaponized to sell you courses, software, and a fantasy version of independence that doesn't account for the actual structure of how money moves. The Instagram version shows someone in pajamas on a laptop making 6 figures. The real version is more specific and significantly less photogenic. So let's talk about what actually happens when you try to turn your spare bedroom into a revenue-generating operation, not the theory, the mechanics. First, understand the timing. Right now, in 2026, we're in a strange moment for home-based businesses. Remote work normalized the idea of professional output happening outside an office. AI tools dropped the cost of production to near zero for certain tasks. And the barrier to entry for e-commerce, digital services, and creative work has never been lower. Which sounds great until you realize that when barriers drop for you, they drop for everyone. There are more home businesses launching this month than in all of 2019. The opportunity is real, the competition is suffocating, and the difference between the ones that survive and the ones that become part of that 4 million closure statistic comes down to a few very specific decisions made in the first 90 days. Let's walk through them. Step 1 is the part everyone gets wrong. They ask, "What's my passion?" when they should be asking, "What's my unfair advantage?" Passion is not a business model. Passion is what you do after the business model works. Your unfair advantage is the intersection of 3 things: a skill you have that most people don't, a problem you understand better than most people, and access to a group of people who will pay to solve that problem. Notice what's missing from that list: capital, a perfect idea, a revolutionary product. Those things help, but they're not the starting point. The starting point is asymmetric knowledge. You know something or can do something that creates value someone else is willing to exchange money for. If you don't have that, you don't have a business. You have a hobby you're trying to monetize. Here's where the math starts to tighten. Let's say you've identified your advantage. You're a graphic designer. You're a copywriter. You're a consultant. You make soap. Doesn't matter. The next question is not, how do I scale this? The next question is, what are my actual costs? Most people underestimate this by a factor of 3. They calculate the cost of goods sold or the software subscriptions. They forget about taxes, health insurance, the 30% self-employment tax, the unpaid hours spent on admin, marketing, customer service, and the opportunity costs of not working a salaried job. When you run the real numbers, a home business needs to generate about 1.5 times your target salary just to break even on lifestyle. If you want to make $60,000 a year take-home, your business needs to do about $90,000 in revenue, and that's conservative. Step 2 is registration and structure. This is the part that feels like bureaucracy, but it's actually risk management. You need to decide if you're a sole proprietor, an LLC, or an S-corp. The wrong choice costs you thousands in taxes or legal exposure. Here's the shortcut. If you're doing anything that could result in a lawsuit, form an LLC. It costs between $50 and $500 depending on your state, and it creates a legal barrier between your personal assets and your business liabilities. If someone sues your soap company, they can't take your house. If you're projecting more than $60,000 in profit, talk to an accountant about S-corp election. It changes how you pay yourself and can save you 15% on self-employment taxes. These aren't glamorous decisions, but they're the difference between keeping your money and giving it away to the IRS or a plaintiff's attorney. Step 3 is the part where most people stall out: customer acquisition. You can have the best product in the world. If no one knows it exists, you have inventory, not a business. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Marketing is no longer optional, and it's no longer cheap in terms of time. The organic reach on every platform is collapsing. Algorithms prioritize paid content, which means you either pay with money or you pay with volume. Posting once a week on Instagram will not build a business in 2026. Posting once a day might. And here's the trap. People spend 6 months building a product and 2 weeks trying to sell it. Then they're confused why it didn't work. The ratio should be flipped. Spend 2 weeks building a minimum viable version. Spend 6 months talking to customers, iterating, and proving that people will actually pay for it before you scale. Let's talk about money movement, specifically cash flow. Revenue is not profit. Profit is not cash, and cash is the only thing that keeps you alive. You can be profitable on paper and still go bankrupt if your customers pay in 60 days and your suppliers demand payment in 15. This is called the cash conversion cycle, and it kills more businesses than bad products. The solution is simple, but not easy. Get paid faster than you pay out. That means deposits, milestone billing, net 15 terms, whatever it takes to make sure money is hitting your account before it's leaving. If you're selling physical products, this gets even tighter. Inventory is cash sitting on a shelf. Every dollar tied up in unsold goods is a dollar you can't use to grow or survive. The goal is inventory turnover, not inventory accumulation. Now here's where the narrative gets interesting. You've done everything right. You found your advantage, you structured correctly, you acquired customers, you managed cash flow, and you're still grinding 60-hour weeks from your kitchen table, wondering when it's supposed to feel like freedom. Because here's the gap between the story and the structure. A home business is not passive. It's not 4-hour work weeks. It's not sipping coffee while money appears in your account. It's the opposite. You are now the CEO, the CFO, the CMO, the customer service department, and the janitorial staff. The flexibility is real. The workload is also real. And the mental load of being responsible for your own income every single month is something nobody warns you about. Let's zoom out. Why does any of this matter right now? Because we're in the middle of a massive shift in how work is structured. The idea of a single employer, a steady paycheck, and a 30-year career is statistically dying. More people will work for themselves in the next decade than at any point in modern history, not because they want to, because they have to. The gig economy, the creator economy, the freelance economy, whatever you want to call it, it's not a trend, it's a restructuring. And the people who understand the mechanics of home-based business, the tax strategy, the cash flow management, the customer acquisition loops, they're going to have a significant advantage over the people who are still waiting for stability to return. Here's the irony. Starting a business from home has never been easier in terms of tools and technology, and it's never been harder in terms of noise and competition. The same platforms that let you reach a global audience are the same platforms where 1 million other people are trying to do the exact same thing. So the edge doesn't come from access anymore. It comes from execution. It comes from understanding the boring parts, the legal structure, the tax optimization, the cash flow discipline, the relentless consistency in customer acquisition. These aren't sexy. They don't make good content, but they're the difference between a business that lasts and a business that becomes a tax write-off. So here's the question you should be asking. Not, can I start a business from home? You can. The infrastructure exists. The question is whether you're willing to treat it like a business and not like a side project that might accidentally make money. Because the market doesn't care about your passion. It cares about value. And the moment you start thinking like someone who creates value instead of someone who wants freedom, everything changes. The laptop lifestyle is real. It just doesn't look like the brochure. It looks like spreadsheets, customer emails, and quarterly tax payments. And for some reason, nobody puts that in the Instagram caption.